Before I get started, I just want to tell everybody thank you for giving me your time. And two, this is an emotional story for me. So if sometime during this I get choked up, just give me a minute, I'll step back, take a breath, and power right on through. With that said, I'd like to say my name is Brandon Prestwood. I live in Hickory, North Carolina with my wife and son, Amy, and I have been married 24 years, so I have a wonderful support system at home. Prior to my accident, in May of 2012, I was an industrial maintenance millwright. In May of 2012, my hand became entrapped in a conveyor belt similar to the escalators or a moving sidewalk at the airports. When this happened, I was trapped. The belt continued to grind until basically my arm was about 95% severed. After 30 plus days or so trying to salvage the limb, obviously the conveyor belt won the battle, but with everybody's help, I'm winning the war. I started my new life as an amputee at that time, and now that I can look back, another thing that I've come to notice is it was a slow death for me. I went through an immense loss of my career, my ability to provide and protect my family. All this stuff weighed super heavy on my mind, and for the first 4 or so years, I didn't have no direction in life. I had lost everything that I wanted to do, how I'd done things. I was having to relearn everything. So I go through this basically 4-year struggle, and then I'm at my surgeons in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm at their office for an amputee clinic thing they have, and they asked me, "Hey, what are you doing with your life?" And I'm like, I don't know. I have no desire to do anything. I'm starting to cope with being an amputee and my loss, but at the same time, it's, I still have no direction. Well, that said, they said, we know some people in Cleveland that are willing to talk to you about possibly restoring the sense of touch through advanced prosthetics. And I was hesitant at first. I didn't want to go, but through their encouragement and talking to my family and everything, I contacted Melissa Smith, which is Dr. Tyler's RM for the program. We had several conversations. I decided to make the trip. Walking into the lab the day that I got to Ohio, I was nervous as a kindergartner on the first day of school, not knowing what to expect. Talked to everybody, went through some preliminary tests, and went home, discussed it with Amy. Yeah, let's do this. That was kind of, let's take this next step, a leap of faith. That said, in February of 17, I was implanted with Dr. Tyler's nerve cuff and EMG control system. And in my opinion, the actual surgery itself was mild, as I'd been through many. Most were painful. This one was mild. I needed no narcotics, no hospital stay. I came home the next day and spent about 4 or 5 weeks healing. A little sore, but 2 Advil. That's all I took the whole time, which I'm proud of. During this time at home healing, things are going through my mind. There was obviously no promises that this would work or anything like that. In the beginning, it was, you're a part of research. It may work, it may not. So that said, after the healing process, I'm back up for the first testing session. And this is when I really start getting choked up as I go further on. I can't remember exactly, because it was an emotional moment for me, exactly which finger or what the particular point on my finger felt like. But the question was, can you feel this? And it probably happened a couple times. No, and then there it was. And again, I can't, in the fuzz of the excitement and the emotional of it, of regaining my finger in the moment that I had that sensation, it was, there it was. There was the tingle. It's my finger. No more my phantom hand. No more my phantom fingers, but my finger. The first session went on, and before we were done, we had multiple spots on multiple fingers. The intensity could be as much as, a whole finger or as small as a pinprick. We continued on with some testing with the EMG signal, EMG control stuff, and by the end of the first training session and stuff, I could manipulate a little bit a virtual hand. It wasn't perfect to start with, but whatever is the first time around. That said, I come home from that first testing session, and all these thoughts were going through my mind. What's this going to do for me? How is it going to affect my life? And again, now that I can look back, I was selfish. At the time, it was about me. It's not anymore. In the following sessions, each month I go up to Cleveland, and I hate to bore you with the timeline, but it's kind of a progression of how things have developed and how it's improved my life over this last, going on 3 years now. February will be 3 years. With the use of the advanced prosthetics with sensory and intuitive motor control, the intuitive motor control was becoming second nature. Like with this particular prosthetic, this is my personal one, I have to flex and extend my wrist to open and close my hand. And this is just one basic function. There's some IOs that have multiple functions, and you have to retrain your mind. But through the intuitive control, it's exactly what it says. I think about reaching out and grabbing something, and that's the shape that's the form my hand takes. Same thing happened with the sensation. A lot of questions I get is, what does it feel like? It's not exactly like this. It's not exactly like my intact hand. But over the course of being stimulated and getting to use the system, I noticed that my mind has wrapped around this sensation as my natural. It is my hand, my natural. It's just, my mind doesn't even question if it's a foreign source coming in. When I touch something with the system on, I don't have to look anymore. Everywhere I put this prosthetic, I have to look where I'm laying, what I'm grabbing, am I squeezing too tight, those types of things. Started thinking more about other amputees now. It's off of me a little bit, still not totally, but we're thinking of, let's get this out to the rest of the amputee world. And I'm getting excited about being able to share and everything. And one opportunity I had, Dr. Amandi, who's in the audience, he's the haptics program director for DARPA, came into the lab and invited me to go to Charleston and talk with professionals in the field and give my user experience similar to what I'm doing today. Went down and shared with everybody and got to hear some ideas, and Dustin's, some of his slides are what we talked about and things like that. But it got me to thinking of non-amputee applications. Fast forward a couple more months, and Dr. Walker, who is the director of DARPA, came into the lab and met with him face to face, shook his hand, had a nice conversation. And then over in the short video was a similar situation. Was Dr. Walker went into another room, and I was able to reach out and shake a hand, know that I was shaking his hand, not squeezing too tight. But the most important thing is I felt it back. I could feel somebody giving me a handshake back. And with this little experience, my mind, it just blowed. It was, we're in two totally separate places. What are some of the things that this can be applied to make everybody's life better? So it's went from me being selfish to amputees. Now it's everybody, which is what we want to improve, or I want to see this technology improve humankind, not just certain parts or demographics. Dustin touched on a few things. I did envision the surgeons performing life-saving surgeries from across the world. Third world countries now have access to better health care, possibly with this system. Recently, we got to go to Virginia to one of the military bases and see the robots firsthand that they're using, our soldiers are using to IED or bomb disposal in the Middle East and other theaters. And I'm getting to use these robots, and I'm thinking, in my my grammar, they were two-dimensional. They had sight and sound. They had a camera, and they could hear what was going on. But they're controlling these things with a joystick or a thumb pad. And I'm thinking to myself, why not give them the intuitive control of the robot arms to maybe make their job easier, and then give them the sense of touch, the feedback of what they're doing. Are they pulling too hard on any particular wire or whatever? I think that's one good application. Another one that hits home to me is you take businessmen and military personnel that are stationed overseas. It started out with the telegram, then the telephone. Now it's video chat over our phones or tablets or whatever. Like Dustin said earlier, give them the sense of touch to go with that. You take a serviceman or woman that's been overseas, hasn't touched their child, their wife, 6 months, a year, 18 months. How much morale boost could that give them? That brings me to this is where I'll start. Go ahead and get my tissue. This brings me to a very emotional story of my own. After meeting Dr. Walker, I was invited to go to DARPA's 60th anniversary and kind of showcase the system and everything. And it's the first time my wife's got to travel with me, as she is our breadwinner at home now. I get to do the traveling, she gets to stay home and do the work. I'm a well taken care of house husband, and I'm tickled to be that. That was to help me get through the emotion, just so you know. That said, she's there. She comes in the room. I've been wearing the system. I know it's working. I've been using it. But I go through this whole, all right, the intuitive control is working. Let's test the sensors. The sensors are working. She walks up, and I do the same thing. I'm like, look, I can make it do this. I can do this. And she reaches out and grabs my left hand. In that moment, I was complete. I was whole. I had to overcome my amputation. The physical touch that my wife gave me that day, through the use of this system, became an emotional feeling. I treasure that day because the first time in 6 years we held hands. Go to a couple weeks ago, we were in San Diego, and she got to travel with me again, and we had the system, and I got to walk around San Diego holding my wife's hand, knowing we were side by side. Still had my dominant hand to do things. Holding my wife's hand, walking down the street. It was powerful to me. I can't explain in words most of the time how much a simple touch can affect your soul. But for me, it does. And now that all this has transpired, this is my direction in life. So this program or this system has not only given me back my sense of touch, my emotional connection to my family, but also it's given me a direction of where I want to go. And as long as we can apply this technology in a safe manner to benefit humankind, I'm behind it the whole way. With that said, thank you very much.